Or something. Okay.
Okay.
Welcome to Larry Ferlazzo, Larry Ferlazzo's question and answer session based upon his social emotional video. And we have a co-hosting this interview is with Carol Salva.
Hi, thanks for having me. And Larry, thanks so much for making that video. I learned a lot and I'm excited to talk to you about some of the questions I have.
Well, thanks for inviting me, and congratulations to you both for putting on such a successful professional development session today.
Thank you for being part of it.
Yeah, we couldn't do it without you.
So Larry, there were a few strategies that you recommended in your video. Which ones do you think is the most effective? Close the door.
Well, I think all are effective for various times and various purposes. The two ones that I use most, I think, and I think are most applicable across the board for all students, no matter what their English level, are one is developing higher order thinking skills, and helping encourage students to develop agency. One of the ways to develop these kind of critical thinking skills is inductive teaching and learning. And there are so many different ways to do that. For example, with beginners, I use the picture word inductive model, which is showing an image, having students identify words in that image, having them next fill in closed sentences, using that vocabulary, then they categorize the closed sentences, turn them into paragraphs, turn them into essays, and develop titles. And that's just one example of how critical thinking skills, such as inductive learning, can be applied to beginning ELLs. Or using the Freirean model, where you have students see an image of a problem, whether it's a child being bullied in school, or one of the things that I use is the beginning of Les Miserables, when a person gets, when he gets arrested for stealing food, then asking students, well, what's the problem? Have you ever experienced a problem? Do you know other people who've experienced a problem? What are potential solutions? What is the best solution? So those kinds of critical thinking skills, I think, are applicable across the board.
I have to jump in because I've been dying to talk to you about this. When you speak that way, I think every single teacher can reflect, and we can look at our practice, no matter what we teach, and think, am I having the students think at high critical, at higher order thinking skills, and really engage with the content in a critical thinking way. So, but you're talking about beginners. You're talking about students who come and are at the beginning emergent level of language in English, in the target language. That's what's so profound to me. How teachers, that might blow people away who maybe haven't had a lot of experience working with beginners. Can you talk with us a little bit about your best advice for us in that?
Yeah, well, I think you're right. I think that many teachers don't, the fact that our beginning students have as much intelligence, if not more, than many of our mainstream students, and it's just the language is the issue. I teach phonics inductively, right? Instead of just laying out the rules, giving students different examples of words. Let's say a bunch of words where there's the long A and the short A, and then students have to categorize them and then develop the rules out of that, and as opposed to just giving them the information. Dan Ariely, the Duke psychologist who's done a lot of research on motivation, calls it the IKEA effect, that we tend to value things more that we actually create.
The IKEA.
Yeah. So his idea is that we'll hang on to a piece of IKEA furniture a lot longer than we will on a one that we buy that is given to us. So I think it's just a matter of applying the IKEA effect to as many things as we can. Can we do it for everything? No. Okay. There's plenty of good times and good reasons to do explicit instruction, right? But I think encouraging critical thinking skills are important all the time, and especially it contributes towards developing student agency. So many of our students have not come here out of their own decision, or they have been forced, whether by family or because of crime and violence in their homelands. So the more opportunities that we can create for students to develop ownership, to develop their own learning, the more that contributes to student agency.
It sounds like inductive instruction is like inquiry-based instruction. Is it the same thing?
I'm probably a part of it. I mean, it's probably going to be an element of it. I think another great inductive tool, I think, is called concept attainment, where you have two rows. I take examples of student writing. For example, if I'm going to teach have and had, have and has, examples of when it is used, one column that says yes, one column that says no, gradually show it, and then have students identify why is it being used correctly here, why is it being used incorrectly here. Again, just part of that IKEA effect.
I want to jump into and say something. We should put in the chat the original video, your SEL video, which is fantastic. It's a 15-minute video for anybody watching now or in the future. Stop, go watch that, and then we'll put the link, and then come back and watch this, because that's what we're talking about, is the video that you put out, the kiddo Ali that you talk about in the beginning. So he's a beginner, and he's in your newcomer class, but you feel like he would be a likely candidate for your IB. Tell us the name of that class.
Well, yeah, it was called Theory of Knowledge. And just to clarify, he was actually intermediate, and he came from Pakistan, so he had some English background. So, for example, for me, most of my students, I teach lots of different classes, and including International Baccalaureate Theory of Knowledge class. And I think it's great for ELL teachers to also teach advanced classes, because with all of the scaffolding that we develop, that we become familiar with, it's great to be able to use that in an advanced class and to make it more accessible for everybody. I specifically recruit both ELLs and non-ELLs who are not taking any other IB classes to take my IB class, along with diploma candidates. But it just makes it, I think I'm able to make it more accessible. And our school promotes the development of those kind of scaffolding teaching abilities, because the majority of our students are ELLs. So our former principal and I wrote an article once about how the more ELLs a school has, the better the school is, because all of our teachers develop those kind of scaffolding skills, which are great for everybody.
That is the gold. That's the answer, right? They bring gifts, and that's one of the gifts that they bring. I think that's so fantastic that you, in that video, I think people can see, it's such an example of how every student can think at high levels. Every student can engage in the kind of inquiry-based learning and different things. So why couldn't they be in another class? And in fact, they could be a leader in another class. I have an advanced placement Spanish course where I have teachers coming in saying, well, this is a college level course, and I know some of your students could come and be authorities in this class.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we do the same thing in our Spanish for Spanish speakers. And I think another example that we did, we had a week-long empathy project where our intermediate students developed personal stories about their life as an immigrant. And we set things up in the library, and teachers from throughout the school signed up for an hour, and we did sort of a round robin where our students shared their stories, and then the visiting classes were prepared to ask questions, and it was a tremendous experience. And we had 30 different classes come in to do that, and then the next week, those intermediate students taught the beginning students how to write those stories, and then we did something similar. So there's a lot, there's looking at ELLs through the lens of assets as opposed to deficits is the way to go. And obviously, that's not new to either Carol or Ton, either one of you, but for others, obviously, it is.
Yeah, from a good place in everybody's heart, I think, for the most part, people are trying to help these students have success. But until we shift our thinking, like you said, to how are they assets, then we're really going to start to gain some ground as an industry and education in general. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, and it's a great, everybody wins. Those are always nice opportunities. It doesn't necessarily have to be easy. It's not necessarily easy, but everybody can win.
Yeah. No, nobody says it's easy. That's what I love this year is my beginners have made videos at the end of the year for next year's beginners. And not one of them said it was easy. They all said, hey, it's going to be hard, but it's going to be worth it. And we all work hard when it's worth it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We want to.
I think there's a quote that said, like, the challenges never get easier, but your ability to deal with them does. So that's what we teach them.
Some nice piece of wisdom there.
All right. And these are life skills. Larry, are you going to be available on Twitter this morning for, responding to anybody who talks about this video, this Q&A, or your other one? So
I'll be there and also be checking out the rest of the conference.
Cool. Awesome. We have 3 minutes before we let you go. Speaking of easy, like which of the strategies do you think teachers should start with? Based upon complexity.
Well, I think the picture word inductive model is just a perfect way to start. And take any picture. I mean, oftentimes I'll have pictures taken by students that are thematically based. So let's say if we're going to take a picture of, we're starting on school. So we'll take a picture of all the students in the classroom, and I'll blow it up and put it on the board, and we start identifying words. And pretty much all I have to do is one night I'll type up a bunch of sentences with blanks that students have to add those words to. And other than that, and for the whole week, that's a good project. They categorize those sentences and add their own sentences, and as students begin to develop greater proficiency, we can add introductions and conclusions, and there's lots of opportunities to increase the complexity of writing essays. And that's one thing that I have learned this year, that it isn't that hard to increase the complexity. And up until this year, I've probably been a little lax on that.
Do you find that it propels more authentic conversations between them using that language because they're producing it in writing when they can stop and think?
Well, yes. I mean, I think the more opportunities that we can create for students to raise the level of their game, the better. Because as you know, there'll always be some students who are going to be a little more advanced than others, and then they can help others, right? And that just, I mean, it creates an opportunity, again, for agency for those students who are a little more advanced to help others, as opposed to going for the lowest common denominator, try to go for the highest. That isn't necessarily a common denominator.
Well, that's fantastic.
So, well, yeah, and thank you for the opportunity to have this kind of conversation. It's always good to talk to colleagues who, you know, we have that sort of common experience of teaching beginning ELLs, and many of us don't necessarily share that experience with colleagues in our existing schools, because so many schools, you know, maybe, you know, have one or maybe two teachers of beginning ELLs.
Absolutely. I hear that so much, is that everybody feels like that they're the most, you know, I'm in a silo like all teachers, but I really am, because I'm the only one on my campus doing this. So we're so appreciative to you, because you are the person out there that is sharing, I feel like, the most, and people plug right into you, and you have so many best of lists and things that make you feel like we're not alone, and you open doors for everybody to find their way. So we're so honored that you would do this conference with us, Larry. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you for the invitation.
Thank you.
Okay, well, let's go join the rest of the conference, and we'll see you guys over on Twitter.
Well, I did want to
Wait,
say that.
One more thing.
This is, Larry, this is another example of like the generosity of teachers in this professional learning network. Like, this is your first day of summer, and it's 7 o'clock in the morning, and yet you're still doing this. And like, I know you're like, I'm not taking any more projects, but I'll do this one for 15 minutes. We're like, great.
We all need to get lives. No, maybe. No.
It's for the kids. It's for the kids.
Right. Thank you.
Happy summer.
Thank you. Happy summer.
Okay, see ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.